Greetings. I hope that you are doing really well and practicing radical self-care. I hope you're waking up in the morning and doing some mindfulness, some meditation. I hope that you are getting plenty of exercise, surrounding yourself with healthy, good, kind people. I hope that you are eating nourishing foods, getting plenty of water, getting plenty of sleep. Halt. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Look out for halt. Try to keep yourself in a state of not being hungry, not being angry, not being lonely, not being tired, or watch for those emotions, right? Actually not suggesting that you shouldn't have some anger. That's a different story, but just look out for like those triggers and incredible self-care. So in this video, what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about Pete Walker, a lot of his stuff around the Fawn response, the codependent people pleaser response that is a response to trauma. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fawn, codependence. Remember, if you have these characteristics or traits of codependence, which is people pleasing, accommodating, putting other people's needs, wants, desires above your own, that was likely a sort of response to trauma as a child or to the family environment. You could have been raised by alcoholic addicts, narcissists, people that were depressed, mentally ill, or just had some issues, and you might have had some childhood trauma, and your response may have been sort of survival trauma response may have been fawn. Pete Walker puts it this way. This is a quote: "Fawn types seek safety by merging with the wishes, needs, and demands of others. They act as if they unconsciously believe that the price of admission to any relationship is the forfeiture of all of their needs, rights, preferences, and boundaries." I do not know if that resonates with you, but it certainly resonates with me. And something to ask yourself when you might be engaging in behaviors and interacting in relationships is, am I coming from a place of self-betrayal and self-denial, or am I coming from a place of self-honor? Am I engaging in self-honoring behaviors? And that's very different than selfish. I think a lot of codependents or fawn types think that they're being selfish when they do self-care. Not so. In fact, if you do not take care of yourself, then how can you possibly help other people? I'm going to kind of go over some of these ways in which to sort of deal or to treat your fawn response. The first thing I think that's very important, obviously, is awareness. Get in touch with your trauma response. If you are triggered, do you immediately go to the place of fawn, where you're accommodating, people pleasing, trying to avoid conflict, do anything, apologizing, groveling, anything to make sure that somebody is not upset with you or mad at you, or that there's no conflict, right? Get in touch, become aware when you might be engaging in sort of codependent people-pleasing behaviors at your own expense. Very important to create a trauma-informed support system. This can be in the form of a trauma therapist, a coach. This can be in the form of a community support like Codependence Anonymous, or some other 12-step recovery group, or some support group for codependents or people who've come out of narcissistically abusive relationships. There's some really good self-care apps. One is called Shine, and it's a great resource for mantras, affirmations, a collective community and self-education around codependence. Very, very important, because even though realistically the trauma happens in a relationship, right? You develop the trauma, or there was trauma in a relationship. The cure is also in safe, supportive relationships. There's a therapist that talks about we don't do this in a vacuum. You're probably not going to be able to do this all on your own. You need the support. Gabor Mate talks about the opposite of addiction is connection. And if you look at this sort of narcissistic relationship that you were in, this codependent and mesh narcissistic relationship, it has a very highly addictive component to it, right? Which is why you're breaking an addiction, you're breaking a trauma bond, right? You understand that? So if you look at it that way, well, the opposite of addiction is connection. Well, the opposite of addiction to this traumatic relationship is connection, community, which is a part of the reason I think a lot of people go onto YouTube and onto these Facebook forums, because we are looking for community. We are looking for some validation and some explanation of what we have experienced and for some community support. And I think this is very vital to healing from narcissistic abuse and to addressing your trauma response, the fawn response or the codependence. Another thing that's, I think, very helpful is to get in touch with being okay sitting in with somebody else's anger or disappointment or upset with you. Get okay when somebody else is mad at you. And because the fawn response kicks in and we'll do anything to avoid somebody being upset with us or mad at us, right? We'll do anything. We'll grovel, we'll make it better, we'll try to accommodate, we'll say sorry when it's really their fault. We'll do all these things. But I think it's very important for you to get comfortable with being okay with somebody else being upset with you or mad at you. Like, it's actually okay. Now, I understand as a child, you may have developed this fawn response. And for you, when one of your caregivers was mad at you, it might have been an existential annihilation. It felt like death, right? Because if our primary caregivers are mad at us and they're cut off from us, then from a biological, anthropological perspective, we might actually die, right? So like, I get that it may evoke in you this incredible fear of like almost death, like an existential death, but get in touch and be okay with sitting in the idea that somebody might be upset with you, and that is actually okay. If you're sending your true authentic self, not all 7.5 billion people on the planet are going to like you, and that's okay. If people get upset with you for being you, well, that's their problem, not yours. Another thing you can do is get very clear on your personal values, your core values, right? Because those are intrinsically related to your boundaries. Get in touch with what your core values are. Are your core values integrity? Are they honesty? Are they kindness? Are they service to others? If you have a core value of service to others and you believe in helping others and you are with somebody who doesn't lift a finger to help another person unless there's something in it for them, then you are not in alignment. They are not in alignment with your core values. And I think if you were with a narcissist, unless you were with a communal narcissist or like a altruistic narcissist, they probably showed that they didn't value service to others like at all, right? But you do. So like if you were with one of those people, like they're not in alignment with your core values, and you can set boundaries that are tied to your core values. And when somebody trespasses on your boundaries, they may not be a good fit to be in relationship with you. If you have a core value of honesty and you are with somebody who has this pattern of lying, then they keep lying and you said, hey, I think you're lying, and they keep doing it. Well, you're not in alignment, right? They're not in alignment with your core values. So I think it's really important to get in touch with your personal values, your core values, and link that to your boundaries, because essentially your boundaries are kind of adherence to your true self, your core values, and being in alignment with that, right? So another thing, this is something that's, I think, really helpful to see if you're actually in the moment fawning during conflict. This is all sort of from Pete Walker's work on complex PTSD. These are some signs that you might be fawning during conflict. Are you speaking from the heart, or are you saying what you think people want to hear? Are you being authentic? Are you giving apologies that don't, or appeasing somebody or apologizing for something they did just to avoid conflict? Are you taking responsibility for how you are showing up, but without putting the burden on yourself of how somebody else is showing up? Am I keeping it to my side of the street and not taking on the responsibility for somebody else's bad behaviors? Or am I deeply respecting the humanity of the person that I'm interacting with, and while at the same time holding on to my own humanity? Does the stance I'm taking in reaction to what's happening with this person feel in alignment with my true core values, right? Am I telling the truth? Am I letting my yes mean yes or my no mean no? If it's a fawn response, we may be people pleasing just to avoid conflict. Are you looking to quickly exit the conversation or the conflict just to avoid discomfort? Or are you moving towards resolution and common ground, but being okay with some discomfort along the way? We got to be able to have these hard conversations with people. So these are just some of the ways that you can start looking at that fawn response. And I think awareness is key. Like, I go to Codependence Anonymous. It's a 12-step recovery group for people that have that fawn trauma response. And what we learn a lot in there are some of the very specific behaviors of codependence. Some people may struggle more with control issues. Others might struggle more with denial of their feelings, of their true wants, needs, and desires. Somebody else may struggle with, a lot of people pleasing and accommodating. Like, there's different sort of things that might be more specific to you, but you'll learn a lot if you go to that program about like what my specific trauma response is, how I'm, engaging in sort of these people pleasing codependent behaviors just to, keep myself feeling safe. And there are different ways that we can start engaging and interacting in the world. So we are being authentic. We are being true to ourselves, because if we are not in alignment with our core values, and if we're not being authentic and true to ourselves, then what that's going to do is when we're constantly compromising our truth, one, we're being dishonest. We feel dishonest, and it's very bad for our self-esteem. It's like chipping away at our self-esteem. Every time I say yes, when I really internally mean no, I am chipping away at my self-esteem. So one of my wise mentors says, if you want good self-esteem, then start doing esteemable things. And in this case, esteemable things are being in alignment with your truth, and stop people pleasing just to make other people feel comfortable when you are being dishonest. So I hope that this is helpful for you, and I'm going to keep doing some deep dives on, how to address the codependence, how to set boundaries, how to recognize if your fawn response is one of your predominant trauma responses, and what you can do to change and cure and to heal it. So I hope you guys are, again, practicing radical self-care. I hope you're having a wonderful day and you're thriving. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.